car rental agents of Reddit. When has a vehicle returned that made you say WTF? Former Hertz agent. One of my best drug dealer customers would return her luxury car every week to swap out to a new one with a $50 bill inside the contract for me. It was great until it wasn't. The last rental she ever got was a luxury SUV that was returned to our possession from police, impounded with 12 bullet holes and $6,700 worth of damage. I hated having to DNR her. Worked as an MT for Enterprise about a year ago, and I rented a van to a lady and her husband so they could move their son into college over in Colorado. They seemed very normal and down to earth. Upon return, they didn't mention any problems they had or anything that rubbed them the wrong way, and the van was basically in pristine condition. Newer van when we rented it to them, only about 1k miles on it. A week later the wife calls back claiming her and her family had gotten lice from our van, and the lice infected their home causing huge losses of clothing and furniture, and the house needed to be fumigated. Apparently the sand on the floor of the van had contained the lice, which then hopped onto her and husband's heads. It had to have been our van that was the source of the lice. Couldn't have been any of the hotel/motels they stayed at the week they were traveling to and around Colorado. Their wife threatened legal action and a bunch of other stuff. She gave us repeated calls with tears and everything. When nothing came of it, we were all WTF and forgot about it. A while later the husband came into us with his tail between his legs apologizing, saying his wife lost it when their son moved out and has since been prescribed medication. Was super bizarre. 1. We had a lady return a car that she had for a weekend that was littered with pistachio shells, sunflower seeds and cigarette butts. I'm talking pounds of sunflower seeds and shells, dozens of cigarette butts and a cup holder full of cigarette ashes. She only had it for a weekend, and it was absolutely disgusting. We ended up charging her a cleaning fee of $250 after her return, but my boss made me clean it before we took it to the detailers. 2. We had a couple shady guys rent from us every week or so, and they only wanted an Altima. Even time only in Altima, 3-day rentals, and they always came back smelling a bit like weed, which was semi-normal. A couple times though the back seat was loose, as if they had pulled the seat off and put it back on to hide something under it. After my boss transferred stores I refused to rent to them because I was sure they were trafficking drugs with our cars. I was a detailer for Budget and Avis while I was in college. I can think of a few WTF instances. 1. Had a 4Runner come back with banana peels everywhere. Not just a few, I'm talking dozens. On the floorboards, hanging over the backseat headrests, stuffed in the door pockets. Like Donkey Kong himself had been driving it for a week. 2. Found a used glass pipe under the backseat of a Silverado. 3. Got a one-way rental from another location, dropped off with us late one night. The rental agent told me that when she checked it in, it reeked of shit. Upon my inspection the next day, I found that someone had some kind of accident on the driver's seat and had left smears of human shit all over it. To make it worse, we had a customer who wanted a one-way rental back toward the car's original location immediately, so I had about 15 minutes to clean it up. Just do the best you can, is what I was told. 4. The worst by far was the road construction company that rented a Corolla for a month. That was the only car that I wasn't able to save with a little work and time, and had to be taken to a professional detailer. There was tar and asphalt stuck to the floors, so thick that you couldn't even tell that there was carpet underneath. Tar smears all over the steering wheel, shifter, dash, door panels, seats, headliner, and all over the outside too. On top of that, there was a bad vibration while driving, like the wheels needed to be balanced, or the car needed an alignment. We took it to Midas, and they ended up digging several pounds of asphalt out of the backside of the front right wheel. My friend got her car stolen. After only 23 hours, a cop found the thief and arrested him at a gas station a few miles from where he stole it. The male thief pulled up to the wrong side of the pump, and the car had a very feminine custom plate. Dude had the car for 23 hours and managed to trash the thing. Condoms, trash, ashes everywhere. We definitely all said WTF. It's like he and his buddies ate McDonald's, smoked cigarettes and banged girls out non-stop inside of one poor car. A former famous rapper had a shootout on the highway after a concert. We returned 3 of the 5 vehicles that were involved. All had multiple bullet holes, blood, the whole 9 yards. Also had an up and coming boxer, and regularly he would rent multiple vehicles and let his entourage drive them. Found condoms, dirty clothes, magazine casings, ashes everywhere, drugs in the back, and they had the audacity to question the detail fee. Former Alamo agent here. I had an 18 years old try to rent a car from my store, and he was denied because he had no credit card and was too young. His father came in and rented a car. He was told his son could not drive. Car was not returned, and we found it on the kid's college campus, outside a dorm dining hall, with a sign in the window that said "Put all garbage here," with the windows rolled down. Been there for a week, and it was full of half-eaten food, rotting milk containers, and just the foulest smelling crap imaginable. The first tow truck company refused to tow it away because of the stench. They refused to get near it. Entire interior was replaced and still didn't cure the smell. Area manager claimed it was damaged in a flood, and we junked it. I still can smell that car 15 years later. As a renter, my fave was when we were renting cars to drive to a test range where we were testing TOW missiles in the desert, and on the way there was a short dry lake bed. So of course we raced those freakers. One day a storm had blown some rocks off the hill, and my buddy drove right over one at a good 90 miles per hour plus. Ripped out the bottom of every single fluid carrying thing: radiator, engine, transmission, differential, gas tank. The car went about 100 feet and just died. Oh freak. No off-road coverage. We towed it out to the highway with the rock. Left skid marks with another car. Dropped the rock. Poured out appropriate fluids. Dropped the car and called the rental agency. They gave us a new car, but kept their eyes on us for the rest of the contract. I worked for Enterprise when I was fresh out of college, and I never really experienced anything mind-blowing, but the worst was someone who lived out of the rental car for like 4 months. We had to go repossess the car because she didn't pay for a month. Luckily she wasn't in it when we took it. Covered in dog/cat/rat/whatever hair, about a million cigarette butts, melted lipstick in the cup holder, dirt, mud, fesses, smelled like a homeless shelter. We had our Mexican car washer wash it out for about 20 minutes and turned around and rented it an hour later. Poor person who had it afterwards. Did I mention this was a Chevy Metro? I worked at Enterprise a couple years ago as an MT. I'd go back and help the service agents clean cars on slow days. Worst thing we've ever found was literally shit smeared in the backseat. About a dozen empty cans of Monster on the floorboards. One of the seats was torn. Not bad, just a small cut like pocket knife sized. Trash filing every orifice the car had, and cigarette ash and buds in the cup holders. The whole car smelled of ass, cause yeah no. The shit and cigarette smoke. We have a no smoking rule on all our cars, and these jerks just said freak it on that one. The car was a white Dodge Avenger, 4-door, a 2010 I believe, but not entirely sure. It was a standard class car. It was horrid. My manager and the service agents just kind of stood in the wash bay and stared at it for 30 minutes after the customers left. Then I watched their faces go white with fear as my manager told them, "Clean it as best you can." Straight up ridiculous. We had the car sent up to an Indianapolis collision center cause that shit was wrecked. This singular event was so bad our area manager got involved. We filed a claim against the customer, had the car cleaned and detailed, and transferred it to be used at another branch a couple counties away. Another story from the rent-a-car days. Had a Ford F-150 stolen. It was found a week later covered in Monster Energy decals and filled with stolen purses. We never caught the customers who stole it. Another time some dingus took a log and smashed in the front window of a Genesis. Nothing was stolen, they just wanted to do damage. Again, no one was caught. A fun bit that came out of that was that I got to drive the car to a repair shop with a gaping hole in the window. Fun times. Went with a friend to rent a car. When they went to walk us to the car we rented, there was a car that had just been returned with a bunch of dents, scratches, broken mirrors, busted windows, the works. I went to ask the rental clerk about it, but my friend piped up. She tells me that this car was parked about half a block down the street and some crazy ass lady chased a dude out of her house with a golf club and did a number on the car. Friend was surprised to see it here at the rental place. Later on, the story came out. Dude's dating a crazy chick and wants to dump her. So he rents a car with full insurance to drive over to Crazy's house and dumps her. She flips her shit, wrecks the car, and he returns the car to Enterprise. I understand the rental insurance company is going after the ex for felony vandalism and restitution. I once worked for a vehicle transportation company. Usually this would involve picking up cars and bikes damaged in accidents abroad. Anyhow, this time it was different. A company asked us to collect this car from a hotel car park in Berlin. They were very hush hush about why, and it turned out that one of their members of staff had hired it on a business trip, but then they had promptly disappeared. When we got it back to the UK, it was still full of his stuff, which we thought was very weird, but when the hire car guy came to pick it up and was completely unfazed, almost like shit like this happened all the time. He drove it away, missing man's stuff and all. Worked as a service agent for Enterprise for about a year and a half in Austin. Worst was this van that a guy brought back after having it for 3 weeks, and it seriously smelled as if something had died in there, and then he drove it out to a river and left the rotting corpse in van, half submerged. We opened up the van for half a day and you could still smell it from 30 feet away. Anything closer than 5 feet would have you gagging. There was half-eaten food in it that probably baked in the Texan sun, and the guy left it there to fester, as if the van was a large petri dish for him to grow his moldy fungi demon creatures. Some unknown substance that looked half solid half goo had packed itself in underneath the passenger seat, and we could not figure out what it was for the life of us. There seemed to be dog shit smeared on the dashboard and all over the panel, and some red shit all over the wheel. The car had to be doubly cleaned by a third-party detail service we hired, and they spent about 6 hours cleaning that van out, using surgical masks and rubber gloves. The engine itself was fucked up, so we had to take it to the dealership where they worked on it for about 2 weeks, when we usually got them back in like 2 or 3 days. Though knowing that smell, one can understand why somebody would be hesitant working on it. We let it air out for 3 weeks after that, before emptying it out, but you could still smell that lingering scent of all things unholy. Had a short stint working for Avis. My job wasn't renting cars, but picking them up from out of state and driving them back. The two worst I saw, one car was riddled with bullet holes and apparently was part of some kind of crime scene. There was blood in the backseat, but not tons of blood, so I'm assuming whoever got shot back there lived. But other than that, it was drivable, and they had me drive it back. The worst one, and really the above was worse, but this one really made me say WTF. Picked up a car from Indianapolis, the backseat folded down to make the trunk bigger. Somehow they broke the backseat so the thing wouldn't stay latched, and they also ripped up half the interior. But whatever, we get damaged cars all the time. So whatever, I'm driving this car along I-70 when I feel something brush my leg. I look down and no shit, there was a giant freaking lizard in this car. I damn near crashed from the shock like WTF. Pull off to the side of the road, call the company. They told me they wanted me to drive it back anyway, and that apparently they were warned, without relaying it to me, that there could be an animal in the car. Seriously, WTF. Anyway, I'm not sure what kind of lizard it was. It was big, whatever it was. I'm thinking a large iguana or a baby monitor. I tried to grab it and throw it out of the car, but it kept tucking in behind the seats or running up into the trunk. After failing to get it for over 15 minutes, I just tucked the ripped up interior under the seats so it couldn't get at my legs. Drove like crazy to get that car back to the station. Only about an hour ride from that point. I only worked there for like a month. I can only imagine what other people have seen there. I moved on to a better paying job. That job was meant for like retired people. They only paid minimum wage, and it was a part-time job. Not a rental agent, but I made a few say WTF at DFW airport once. I took the wrong exit out of a garage and went over the tar strips. I made it about 1/2 mile before I realized what happened. I needed to get my team to a client in Austin and didn't have time to mess around. So I turned the car around and drove the 1/2 mile back and drive right into the return area on 4 flat tires, and they were loud in the garage. The worst part was a little kid who walked by the car and asked her mother, "Mom, what did that guy do to that car?" The mom pulled her away. The agent came over with a "you're an idiot" look on her face. I said, "She's running a bit rough and pulling to the left. Do you have another car I could have?" She wasn't amused. A little paperwork and I was on my way again in another car. My company's insurance took care of it, but it was still quite embarrassing. I worked at a small firm at the time, and of course word and photos of the car spread across the whole company. So, that's my story. Enjoy. Like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.